We fought far under the living earth, where time is not counted. Ever he clutched me, and ever I hewed him, till at last he fled into dark tunnels. They were not made by Durin's folk, Gimli, son of Glóin. Far, far below the deepest delving of the dwarves, the world is gnawed by nameless things. Even Sauron knows them not. They are older than he. Now I have walked there, but I will bring no report to darken the light of day. In that despair, my enemy was my only hope, and I pursued him, clutching at his heel.
Hey everyone, Yoiston here, and I hope you all are having a great Halloween, wherever you are in Middle-earth. Today, to celebrate the occasion, we are going to be taking a look at the nameless things of Middle-earth, those encountered by Gandalf in the depths of Moria. Before we jump into the lore, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Lord of Maps. Now, I don't often do sponsorships, but when I do, it's with a service that I like and trust, and is in some way related to what we do here on this channel. This is no exception, as Lord of Maps is one of my favorite sponsors that I have ever had. Lord of Maps creates maps of different countries, states, and even the world in the fashion of maps that we see here on this channel. You can see them in normal or vintage coloration, and as framed or unframed. They sent me a few maps to inspect for today's sponsorship, and I am beyond impressed with the quality, both of the maps and frames. I've already ordered more from them for myself, and I'm beyond excited about them. I got a house this year, and these maps are on full display in my living room. They really add so much class to any room you put them in. I have a special promo code for 15% off. Please type in WEST at checkout. Thank you so much, it really helps the channel, and thank you to Lord of Maps for sponsoring this video. You're all very admirable, and I'm honored to work with you. For more information and the sources for today's video, please check out the articles and videos in the description and cards. My friends, thank you all so much for joining me. Let's begin our tale. From the 15th through the 25th of January in the year 3019 of the Third Age, Gandalf pursued his foe, Durin's Bane, the Balrog of Moria, from the bridge of Khazad-dûm through the catacombs, up the endless stair to the very peak of Zirak-Zigil, or Celebdil, and during this battle, he chased Durin's Bane through the gnawed places of the Nameless Things, and it must have been the reignited fire of Durin's Bane that served as Gandalf's light in the darkness, for he had to closely pursue him, lest Gandalf was lost in the foundations of the world. Since Gandalf walked in these places gnawed by the Nameless Things, we can assume a few things about the physical features of these things, namely that they were likely large and round like worms, and had teeth that could gnaw through even stone and earth. After throwing down the Balrog and ending his life as Gandalf the Grey, Gandalf the White would later bring a small report of these nameless things to the three hunters after reuniting with them in the Fangorn Forest. Sauron knew not what the nameless things were. They were apparently older than he was. It may also be possible that the Watcher in the Water was once a nameless thing, or that he was simply a cold drake in water. Now, not to be anticlimactic or anything, but that is really the only enumerated information we have on these creatures, with everything else being speculation. Hence, I never really planned on making a video on these things, not at least until I had a few valid theories and ideas to bring forth and add to the conversation. But after speaking to Indeep Geek, a friend of the channel, on one of his live streams recently, and after having many conversations with my podcast co-host Royan on our Patreon exclusive podcast, I am ready to speak now to the most possible theories and ideas I have concerning these enigmatic creatures. First, I find it quite likely that, shortly after coming to Arda, Melkor created these creatures explicitly or inadvertently. In the Ainu Lindale, the music of the Ainur, and really the first part of the Silmarillion, it is said that Ilúvatar gave to Aule scarce less knowledge and skin than to Melkor, and also there are many similarities between those two Valar, meaning that it is likely that Melkor had knowledge of the earth and its substances, perhaps even more than Aule had. And so in the early part of the making of Arda, Manwë, Ulmo, Aule, and Melkor were there first, building the world of Arda that was to be before the arrival of even the other Valar or Maiar. Melkor, already in this time, conflicted with the others, and it would not surprise me if, since these creatures are older than Sauron according to Gandalf, this is the time Melkor made the Nameless Things and put them in the foundations of the earth, while yet the shapes of the lands and mountains were being made. Of course, the spirit of Sauron was still out there, as he was made with the thought of Ilúvatar. So Gandalf must have meant before Sauron arrived in Middle-earth as Mairon, or before Mairon turned to the service of Melkor and became Sauron. Another detail that adds credence to this idea is that Melkor raised the Misty Mountains later to hinder the travels of Arome into eastern Middle-earth. And perhaps Melkor knew that underneath these mountains were at least some of the Nameless Things. Also, something caught my attention recently when I was delving into the philosophical conversation of Finrod and Andraith. Andraith, on many occasions, calls Morgoth or Melkor the title Nameless, rather than actually giving him a name in their conversation. If taken literally, that may mean the Nameless Things actually mean Morgoth's creatures. And I find that that would actually make the most sense, since another ally of his, one far more evil and powerful, Ungoliant, was also an enigma. It could be that she was related to these Nameless Things, but I'm not sure. Melkor had a tendency to find some sort of connection with these enigmas. It may even be, as presented in an article by Michael Martinez, that these things were other sorts of Umayar, evil spirits corrupted by Morgoth like the Balrogs, and that these Nameless Things are somehow related to Durin's Bane himself. Again, they are primordial, as they are older than and unknown to Sauron, so their creation must have come even before he either came to Middle-earth, or at least before he shifted to the allegiance of Melkor, going from Mairon to Sauron. And even if these Nameless Things aren't evil spirits, they may have been created by the substances of the earth itself by Melkor, if he could go on to pervert and mock other creatures with his own. In this way, I would also doubt that Aule made the Nameless Things, as Gandalf seemed frightened of them, with the implication that they had a dark and evil nature. Finally, it could be that these were just wild creatures, or even that the Nameless Things were used as somewhat of a metaphor by Gandalf, similar to how Bilbo mentioned werewolves in The Hobbit. Nameless Things, just like fell beasts, is a rather ambiguous title, meaning they likely represent, at least in the eyes of the Free Peoples, ambiguous origins. In The Lord of the Rings Online, the Nameless Things are explained a bit more, being classified as ancient evil, and they show up at times deep under the earth or in instances of evil. And again, since the Watcher in the Water was able to move out from under the earth and dam the river Siranon, and he presented a real threat to the Fellowship, it's quite possible he also was one of the Nameless Things, since we don't really have a category for him. But I've also heard the theory that he is a cold drake. I'm not sure. But what do you all think? I would like to believe that Melkor, the Nameless, created these creatures in the time before the Years of the Lamps, ere Sauron came to the world, and as Arda was created, they were left in the lowest and darkest parts of the earth. But I could be wrong, as these are some of the many ambiguous, mysterious, and enigmatic creatures of Tolkien's Middle-earth. And so, we come to the end of our tale. From this tale, we see how much mystery yet remains in our world. Even though it seems that we've explored everything, there's still a lot more mystery out there. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video on the Nameless Things. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button and share this with a friend. What are your thoughts, questions, additions, and corrections on the Nameless Things? Let me know in the comments below. For me, I'm glad such enigmatic creatures exist in the deepest parts of Middle-earth, as they yet add another layer of intrigue and mystery to the world. Once again, thank you to Lord of Maps for sponsoring this video. Please check out their maps, you won't be disappointed, and it really helps the channel. Thanks to our Valar tier patrons, Adrian De La Torre, Chris Ortner, Kyle Wetzel, Peter Shepard, Jonathan Putnam, Mark Kralik, Blair Scouten, Merton, John Hume, Jennifer Wood, Sam McBee, Matt Sabach, Quantum Catalyst, Elizabeth Calvert, Maz Gibbs, Ben Gardner, Condar, Reese Jenkins, and Adam Petrolik. Thank you so much, and thanks to all of our patrons. Please subscribe and hit that bell button to join the Men of the West and all of the Free Peoples today, and I'll see you all again next week with a history on the Forest of Mirkwood. My friends, thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one.